Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing an easy, neutral, step-by-step makeup tutorial for beginners. This video is probably going to be a little bit longer than some of my others. It's definitely going to be a bit more chatty, but that's because I want to make sure I give you all of the tips, tricks, and beauty secrets that I have from being in the industry for a few years and from just being a makeup lover for as long as I can imagine. This is every step-by-step of how I personally apply my makeup. I even threw some lashes on, and this is how I put on my lashes. So if you guys ever had any questions for me, they should all be answered here. And if they're not, just make sure you let me know in the comments. But let's get started. To start, I'm gonna go in with my Urban Decay Primer Potion. This one is in the shade Eden. I'm gonna start by putting a dot, well actually 2 dots on each eye and blending it in with my ring finger. No, this is not an extra step that you can skip, and yes, this is totally necessary. This is the difference in your eyeshadow lasting 1 hour or lasting all night long and being beautiful and bold until you wash your face. Here's a little tip. This primer potion comes in a travel size. This humongous size lasts me over a year. So I'm gonna guess the travel size, which is about half the size of this, should last you at least 6 months. Especially if you don't wear makeup that often, it would last you even longer. For our eye look today, I'm gonna be using this Tarte BU Naturally palette. This guy came in my June BOXYCHARM box. It is such a beautiful full-size palette. BOXYCHARM, you've seen me talk about it on my social media if you follow me on Instagram, and you should, but BOXYCHARM is only $21 a month, and this whole palette came in it, plus 4 other full-size things. So if you're new to makeup, it's a really good way to affordably stock up on some makeup. But we are gonna start with this off-white lightest shade here in the bottom, and we are going to use our Morphe E13 brush. This is just a big fluffy kind of brush. Anything similar would work, but these Morphe brushes are gonna be mostly what I'm using today, and they're really inexpensive and amazing quality for beginners, so definitely check those out. So we're gonna go into this light kind of off-white shade, and we're just gonna gently pat that under the brow bone and across the front of the eye. I'm also pressing that a little bit into the crease, just blending it all out. Next, we are gonna go into this medium brown shade, and with our Morphe, this is their M441 brush. Actually, the number has completely worn off, but it is one of my very favorites, and a lot of beauty gurus I know love this brush as well. And this is gonna be to kind of shape up our crease. I'm gonna pat in a little bit of color in the brush, but then tap off any extra shadow so we don't end up with too much fallout on our face. Again, patting it in the color, tapping off any of the excess. And I almost kind of like wiggle it into place first, and then kind of go in that windshield wiper motion back and forth to blend it out. Now with this first color, we do want to diffuse it quite a bit, and diffuse just means going back and forth until it's nice and soft and there's no harsh lines. We're gonna stick with the same Morphe brush, and we are gonna tap that into the darker brown shade to add a little depth to our crease. I'm gonna start in the back side of the crease because I want the most pigment and color right in here. So I'm going to stay right here for a second to build up most of my color towards this back part of the eye, and then start to blend it forward. Just wiggling and kind of keeping that pigment towards the back of the eye first so we get most of it pressed in there, and then just diffusing it and blending it towards the front. A little tip, if you feel like you've gone too close to your brow bone and you don't feel like you have it bright enough up there, then just take the first brush that you did that white with and just kind of gently go right back over that brow bone. So if you have smaller eyes, or if you just feel like you've covered up too much of that and you want that brow bone to look a little brighter, then just go right back over that, blending it out, but helping that lighter shade to shine a little bit more. There's never such a thing as too much blending. You gotta blend it, girl. Next, I'm gonna go in with a Morphe M433. You definitely need this brush in your collection. It's good for your crease, keeping it more tight. I'm gonna put it on my lid color with it. And I'm trying to decide what shade to go in with. I will tell you, once you kind of get this lighter shade and your crease down, you can play with any of the colors and the palettes you have to add the pop of color on the rest of your lid. And that's all we're gonna do. We're gonna keep it really simple and easy, I promise. I think I'm gonna go into this pink here. I have a pink backdrop, I have pink on. Let's stick with the whole pink theme. So what I'm gonna do is just kind of wiggle this brush into that shade and then tap off any of the excess. And with this one being a glitter, I want a little bit more payoff, so I'm gonna actually more so press the color into my lid. Just kind of pressing that pigment into place all over the lid. Again, just wiggling it onto the brush and tapping off any of the excess and then pressing it into the lid. Then I'm going to go back into my crease brush and just go over my crease once just to blend everything together. So at this point, I like to stop on my eyes and start my foundation. I do my eyes first, so if anything does fall out, like we said, you're not going to get that onto your foundation. It's not going to leave you any darkness under the eye where we're trying to usually brighten. So now I'm going to go in with my foundation, but before I do, I want to prep my skin. Today, to prep my skin, I'm going to use my Estee Lauder Day Wear Matte. This is an amazing moisturizer for my oily girls out there. It is a mattifying moisturizer. They say it does up to 10 hours of oil control. I love the consistency of it. It is a very light, gel-like cream, and it leaves my skin feeling so moist, so smooth, but again, so matte. It's an amazing combination. It's actually a little bit cooling. It is just the perfect primer for your foundation. It leaves the skin feeling so smooth and flawless. Then I'm going to go in with my Estee Lauder. This is the Double Wear Light. When I think of foundation for beginners or for people who aren't used to wearing that much makeup, I don't think of a heavy full coverage. I think of something a little lighter than that. But we all want coverage, and we all want it to cover all of our freckles and imperfections that we see when we look in the mirror. Double Wear Light is one of my favorites because it feels very lightweight. It is more hydrating than most foundations. Just a really nice lightweight feel, but it still gives you plenty of coverage, and best of all, it lasts up to 24 hours. For me, it literally doesn't move, and I'm an oily skin person. Does not move until I wash my face. Lately, I've been really into pressing my foundation into my skin with a damp beauty blender style sponge. This sponge is actually from Ulta, and I get it wet just like I do a beauty blender, and it works fantastic for me. I just use the bottom rounded side for my foundation, and as you can see, I'm kind of stippling or pressing the foundation into the skin. This gives it a really beautiful, natural, skin-like look to the finish. Then using the pointed side of my damp beauty blender sponge, I am going to press in my concealer, and today I'm going to be doing the Smashbox. This is their Studio Skin Flawless 24-Hour Concealer, and I am in the shade Light Neutral. Using the doe foot applicator on this concealer, I'm going to brush it out under the eye, cleaning up the corner of the eye so we have a nice clean line under the shadow, and a little bit on the side of the nose as well. I'm also going to put a little bit down the bridge of my nose, on the top of my lip, or what we call our Cupid's bow, on my chin, and a little pretty upside down triangle shape on the top of my forehead. Then using the pointed side of that damp beauty blender, just press it all into place. Really focus on cleaning up that shadow line and also brightening the inner corner of the eye. This concealer is a little light for me right now, but we're gonna make it work. Favorite tip is to set your concealer right away. For this, I'm actually using a little e.l.f. brush, but I have had this little brush for so long. I don't even know if they still make it, but it's just the perfect little like angle to it, so it'll sit right there under my eye. I have a Bare Minerals brush that's similar to this. I don't have it with me, but anything that's going to be a really tiny little brush like this. This, if they still have it, is the e.l.f. small tapered brush. And today I'm going to be using my banana setting powder. This is It's Bananas setting powder and banana cream from Too Faced. And I'm just going to take a little bit of that powder and press it in under the eye. I'm not going to sweep or kind of dust it under the eye because I feel like that sometimes pushes it into the lines and wrinkles, which will make them more noticeable. But instead, I want to pat it over the concealer right away so that it sets the concealer before it has a chance to start to settle in those lines or wrinkles. And again, I'm pressing so that it just stays right in place and we're not moving it around at all. I'm going to set everywhere that we put the concealer, which means down the nose, on the top of the forehead. I like to go around my nose because I get oily there, top of the lip, and your chin. And then just using a fluffier brush. Today I'm going to be using this Japonesque. This is their 960 brush. Japonesque is one of my favorite brush brands. Their brushes are just such good quality, and since they are no longer at Ulta, I have seen them at Marshall's. If you see them, snag them. They are great. Japonesque is owned by NARS. NARS also has amazing brushes, but the quality of these are great. So if you can find them at a steal at Marshall's right now, definitely snag them. I'm just going to use this fluffy brush, again with that banana setting powder, and just kind of pressing that all over, just lightly on the face to set the whole face. Now that my face is all covered and set, I'm going to go back and finish the eyes. I'm going to be using a Morphe. This is the E18 little guy here, and he is perfect for just smoking out this bottom lash line. We're going to go back in to just this darkest shade that we used in our crease. I'm going to tap a little of that into the brush, patting off the excess. Definitely want to pat off the excess this time so you don't get fallout now that we have our foundation on. So again, patting that in, tapping off any of the excess, and then just kind of slowly wiggling it under that lash line. You don't want to apply too much pressure or too much pulling or tugging, because we want to be really gentle with the under eyes. We're just gently kind of wiggling that shadow into place. To finish off the eye, I'm going to go into the lightest kind of champagne shade in this palette, but with the same brush that we used for our crease. I'm just going to take a little bit of that color just on the tip of this brush. I'm just going to pat it into the corner of the eye. This is really going to brighten up the eye. Again, just a little bit on the tip. We're just patting it in right there, kind of right where the tear duct is. I feel like Bob Ross right now. We're just going to pat in some happy little trees, some brightness under the eyes. Okay, now that our shadow is all set, we're going to move on with the lashes. I love a good primer. These are actually two of my favorite primers for the lashes. If you have little lashes like me and you want them to show up a little bit more, go in first with a primer. This is the Sills Booster by Lancome. It is the best primer, but this is the Lash Paradise Primer by L'Oreal. I love them both. I think they are both fantastic. You can't beat either one. I will say that the Sills Booster is supposed to have more vitamins and things in it that are supposed to nourish, condition, and soften your lashes as you wear it. I've heard you can even put it on at night as like a lash mask. But this one is supposed to help your lashes grow and stay softer, where the L'Oreal does not say that, but I'm going to use the L'Oreal today. For some reason, I like to go over my bottom lashes first. Again, with just little wiggle motions. I think the little wiggling back and forth really gets the primer onto the lashes. And then today I'm going to stick with the Lash Paradise theme and go in with the Voluminous Lash Paradise Mascara. And this is, I believe, one of the blackest ones, Blackest Black. A little tip is when going over your lashes, go over them once from root to tip, and then go over them a second time, just focusing on the tips of the lashes, and building up the product only on the tips will help them look a lot thicker without making them look clumpy. Now you could totally leave it like this and it looks beautiful. The lashes really brighten and open up the eyes, but I'm gonna go in with my trusted Duo Lash Glue in black and my wispy. So here's how I do my lashes. I want to hold my lash right here in the center, and I'm going to take the lash glue and just gently squeeze out a little bit and run that little bit over the band of the lash. And once I have that lash glue on the lash, I'm gonna let it sit for probably about 20 seconds. This is gonna help the glue kind of get tacky. Once you sit it on your eye, it won't move around so much, but it'll stick right in place, right where you stick it, so let it dry. Okay, let's see if I can explain this and do it with one hand. Holding the center of your lash, I'm just gonna kind of look down and place this right in the middle. I'm gonna try to get it to touch the skin there. And then I'm gonna just push the lash and this back corner until it meets the skin. Just trying to make sure it's pushed all the way up so it's touching the skin right here. And then I'm gonna move into the inside, grab that false lash and push it just until it meets the skin on that top part of the eyelid, right at the base of the lash. And then my trick is I like to pinch the lashes together. And then my last little tip is to kind of push them up a little bit while they're drying. And now I'm just gonna repeat that on the other eye. Okay girls, now that these lashes are on, this totally brings this look to a totally new level. I know it's gonna take some work, but practice with these lashes, put that glue on, give it a little bit of time to dry, hold it over like we said, get it right in the center, press them into place, you've got this. So let's move on to finish up the face. I'm gonna go in with a Morphe M527. I've mentioned this brush in a previous video. It is my favorite bronzer brush. And for my bronzer, I'm gonna use the NARS Laguna bronzer today. When it comes to contouring, it doesn't have to be scary. It's actually really easy. You don't have to draw all over your face with a crayon-like product. You can totally just use your bronzer and think of a number 3. So we're gonna put that bronzer in the shape of a number 3. We're just gonna go right under our cheekbone right here, not too much, just that little bitty line. We don't wanna bring it all the way forward. We're just gonna keep it right here. We're gonna go in your temple. I'm gonna actually bring it all the way across my forehead, but it depends on the shape of your forehead. If you have a smaller forehead, just keep it in the temples. If you feel like you have a big forehead, go ahead and put a little up top. It'll make your forehead seem a little bit smaller. So we're gonna do temples, cheekbone, and then we're gonna do around the jawline just a little bit. I'm actually gonna blend it down my neck a little too. Darkening this part of the neck will help that jawline to look nice and crisp, take away any kind of double chin. And then we're gonna go on the sides of the nose. The closer these lines are, the smaller your nose will appear. So make sure they're nice and tight. And then starting with the cheekbone, I'm just gonna kind of press and wiggle this into place. And then kind of gently sweep it back and forth. And then up into the temple. And then I'm not gonna add any extra here. I'm just gonna gently run the brush along this jawline. Contouring really helps the face have more shape, more depth, more color without changing the shade of your foundation, but giving you more of a sun-kissed glow. But it also is gonna make us look thinner, which I feel like is the #1 reason we love to contour. I repeated those steps on the other side of my face, and now I'm just gonna take a little bit and dust it across my forehead. And then for the nose, I'm gonna go in with a more precise brush. Sadly, the name of this guy is all worn off because I've had him for a few years. Like I said, if you take good care of your brushes, they're gonna last you. But I'm gonna just go right on the natural shadow that my nose has. And I'm going up the nose, you can totally see it here, and meeting it to the brow bone. Same on this side, up the nose, meeting the brow bone. And then I'm gonna shave off the tip of my nose a little bit because I'm Italian and I could use a little less of that tip. So I'm just running my brush right across the tip. And then I'm actually gonna go back over this with a powder brush and just kind of blend it in a little bit more. I don't like my nose contour to be too harsh or obvious. Then for our blush and actually our highlight too today, I'm gonna go in with the Too Faced. This is their Fruit Cocktail Blush Duo, and this is in the shade Papaya Pop. It smells delicious, but it's such a pretty peachy, bright, I don't know, coral color and a really pretty gold highlight. It's great when you can find hot buys like this where you get 2 products in one. For my blush brush today, I'm going in with the Bare Minerals. This is their Seamless Shaping and Finishing Brush. I'm just gonna pat a little bit of that onto my brush, not too much at all. And then I'm going to pat that right over top of the bronzer. A little tip is to not let the blush go past the pupil of your eye, like center of that pupil. So you don't want to bring it, I'm trying to see if I can show you guys. You don't want to bring it too far forward. You don't want to go past that pupil. And then the other tip is to not go lower than your nose. So it looks like the apple of your cheek goes way below your nose, but if we were to put your blush down here, it's gonna bring the face down. So you wanna keep it nice and high. This is gonna give us lifted cheekbones. If you're older, you definitely want that facelift look, so we're gonna keep it nice and high. And then my last tip for your blush is to then just take whatever is left on the brush, go across the top of your nose a little bit. You know, when you get sun-kissed, you kind of get it all over. And then also on the forehead as well. Especially in the summertime, let's make it look like we got a little extra sun. And then for our highlight, I'm gonna use that golden pretty highlight from the Papaya blush, and I'm gonna blend it in with a Morphe M310 fan brush. Like I said, their brushes are so inexpensive. I think this little guy is like maybe $5, so go snag him. They sell them on Morphe's website, but also at Ulta, and on Ulta you get your points, so that is where I would recommend grabbing your brushes. I'm gonna wiggle this on the highest part of our cheekbone, and then I'm gonna take that highlight a little bit up in a C around the eye, and on this little part of the forehead. I'm gonna repeat that on the other side as well. And then with what's left on this brush, I'm just gonna go across our Cupid's bow, that top part of the lip, helping that to look a little accentuated. And then lastly, using a teeny tiny brush, I'm going to go down the center of the nose, making a tiny line, and on the tip of the nose as well. This is gonna give the illusion of a smaller nose. Last but not least, our brows. I think the easiest way to do your brows is with a powder. Personally, I just think it's just the easiest. So I am going to use my Kat Von D. This is the number 70 brush, and I do really love this brush because it is so precise at the tip. But I'm gonna just go into the darkest shade that we used in our crease and our eyeshadow palette. I'm sure you guys have plenty of eyeshadow palettes lying around, even if you're beginners, and you've got some shades in there that just might work for your brows. So play around with them, see what you think. This one might be a little light for me, but for today's video, we're gonna try it out. So I'm just gonna press a little bit of that shadow into the brush. I'm gonna start with very little. And I've already brushed my brows into place with a spoolie, and I like to go starting at the arch and doing the under part of the brow first. And I'm just using little strokes. Then I'm gonna do the top of the back of the brow. Basically, I always do the bottom and then the top. And then I go ahead and connect this line to the back and then the top. Then once I have my shape in place, then I'll go back in and fill. But I like to have my outline drawn out first. And then again with just little strokes, I'll fill in the brow. Then with a clean spoolie, I'm just gonna brush over the brow, making sure there's no clumps of powder anywhere, that all product is brushed through evenly. I feel like that powder actually looks really good. before and after. Then I'm gonna go in with the Benefit Gimme Brow, and this is in the shade 4.5. So the Gimme Brow is a tinted brow gel, but it has fibers in it. So the fibers are gonna actually cling to the hairs and make my brows look thicker, but they're also gonna give more color and more depth to the hairs, which is gonna make the brow look a little more natural. I'm gonna start in the front and just gently brush this through the brow. Now, I'll tell you, in all my years working in the beauty industry, I've never met anyone who loves their brows and thinks that they are so perfectly the same. I love the saying, they are sisters, not twins. If you look at mine, this brow is super full with hair in the front, but this brow is not. That's where this comes in. Go ahead and balance out the brows, and then at the front, go ahead and do little brush-like strokes to fill in, and this will help them look more even and close to twins as possible. I want to keep the lips really easy and natural for you guys, so I'm just going to go in with my Tartist. This is their glossy lip paint in the shade Obvi, as in obviously. But this is going to be really light and natural. Nothing too heavy with the more glamorous eye look that we did today. This is going to complement it and complete the look. Well, that completes this look. I had so much fun doing this step-by-step tutorial for my beginners out there. I hope you learned some tips and some tricks, some beauty secrets that are going to help you feel so much more confident the next time you go to do your makeup. Guys, makeup doesn't have to be scary or hard. Have fun with it. If you love green eyeshadow, wear green eyeshadow. If you love glitter, let me tell you what, you're never too old for glitter. But I had fun. I hope you guys did too. If you are interested in that box I mentioned, I will definitely leave my link down below for you guys. If you haven't yet, take a second, click that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that little bell. It'll give you a little ding. So next time I go live, you'll know. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.